on, everyone? It's Jack here from NothingButTech. Hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome back to another video. I just filmed a review of the Google Pixel 3a, and the most asked question going into that review was, how is the camera? So in today's video, I want to compare the camera of the Pixel 3a, the OnePlus 7 Pro, and the iPhone XS. So the OnePlus 7 Pro and the Pixel 3a are the two new phones of this video, and the iPhone XS has been out for a while. But the second I got my hands on both, a lot of people wanted a camera comparison video, so I want to bring that to you. So I went out and I shot a bunch of different images, and I'm hoping that it's extensive enough to show you guys. I want to preface this video by saying all these cameras are really good. We've gotten to a point where smartphone cameras are so excellent that it's really hard to kind of nitpick. Some of the cameras do better in certain situations when you compare them to the other cameras, but overall, all of them offer a really good camera experience, and I'm excited and happy to say that. So this video is not going to be a blind test. I'm going to do another blind test soon with a bunch of different cameras, but this one, I want it to be that you guys can just see the phones, and I want to be able to talk a little bit about the tendencies of each phone, which I can't do if it's a blind comparison. So the first image we're going to look at is a photo of me taken in like the depth effect mode, which is called portrait mode on the iPhone XS. And immediately you can see that out of the box, the Pixel 3a adds a lot more blur than the other two. You can tone this down, of course, but I think that if you were a consumer and you didn't know how to turn it down, it's way too much. So if you tone it down a little bit, it'd be a lot more natural. And the other main thing that I'm noticing right now is the color tone. What I'm gonna say now, it's like an opinion thing, and a lot of the stuff I'm gonna be saying about these photos is how I personally feel about them. You might have a different opinion on them, but for me, the Pixel 3a, it has a much bluer tone that I'm not a huge fan of. So I took that photo and I threw it into Lightroom, and I was able to fix it right away. So the Pixel 3a always tends to go to a much bluer tone than the other cameras, and especially the Pixel 3 did it, but the Pixel 3a seems even more prominent that it's doing it this year. So in a lot of the images, you're gonna look and it's gonna kind of be bluish, and you can normally pull that out. So I was able to really make that photo a lot more pleasing to the eye immediately by just doing that. And then when you look at other things in the photo, the iPhone XS definitely goes to a much warmer tone, and the OnePlus 7 Pro is kind of like the middle of that. So it's a little bit cooler than the iPhone XS, but definitely a lot warmer than the 3a. In terms of color tone, my t-shirt is like a neon, like gorgeous pink in the iPhone XS photo, kind of like the channel color pink. And in the other two, it's a much lighter pink. And in the 3a, it's a bluer pink. The actual color of my shirt, it's kind of in between the iPhone XS and the OnePlus 7 Pro. In terms of edge detection, they're actually getting pretty good now. So the iPhone XS and the OnePlus 7 Pro have a second camera that they use for depth control. The Pixel 3a does it all with just that one camera and all software. And for that, it's pretty good. It kind of screwed up my hair, but I wouldn't say that that's like to its detriment because the wind was blowing in that photo, and I waited and I just could not get a photo without the wind, like it was just a windy day. So I feel like if it wasn't blowing in that photo, the edge detection would be a lot better. As you can see on the left side of that photo, it looks pretty good. The OnePlus 7 Pro is actually really surprising to me. Like the edge detection and the color representation throughout this entire sample has been pretty good. So far these look pretty good to me. And I would say that the iPhone XS does not have the most accurate skin tone, but I think it's the most flattering skin tone a lot of the time. It makes you look a little bit more like healthy and tan. Pixel 3a kind of washes you out, and the OnePlus 7 Pro meets somewhere in the middle. So that's the first photo. I'm gonna leave it there on that one. So this next photo I did was to test dynamic range, and it's like a wider shot with this blue sky and no one in the image. So Pixel 3a is the most contrasty out of these. You can see you lose a little bit of detail in like the trees and the grass on the bottom, but it's an appealing photo, like you look at it twice. The iPhone XS is the least contrasty out of the three. OnePlus 7 Pro kind of meets in the middle, and if you look at the tree on the left side, it looks like the blacks are crushed on both the OnePlus 7 Pro and the Pixel 3a, but not on the iPhone XS. I tend to really like images from the Pixel 3a if I just want to post them. And I really like images from the iPhone XS if I want to be able to edit them and have some flexibility there. Again, it's all personal preference, but all these did a pretty good job. It's just which one looks the best to you. And I feel like the OnePlus 7 Pro kind of meets in the middle on almost every test of the iPhone XS and the Pixel 3a of like doing contrast and colors. It kind of is like in the middle of those two. When we take it into some lower light conditions, again with like the depth of field mode on to see how they would do with a non-person, they did pretty well. Both the iPhone XS and the Pixel 3a did not get one spot blurred in between these two fingers and these two fingers. It left a gap, whereas the OnePlus 7 Pro actually blurred out that spot, which makes it look a little bit more natural. In terms of edge detection, other than that, they all did a really good job, and they all illuminated the photo really well. The color tone on the mascara in the iPhone XS, that purple, is not as accurate as it actually was. It kind of looks closer to what the Pixel 3a did. How many times am I gonna say Pixel 3a in this video? Next up, we're going back to a detail shot outdoors. So I took a picture of leaves outside, and the results were pretty interesting. So all of them look pretty good. The iPhone XS has a much different green than the 3a and 7 Pro. It's actually the more accurate green in this one. These kind of washed out the leaves, which is a little bizarre. They almost like overexpose them in a way, but the detail is really prominent in every single image, which is actually really nice to see. The 7 Pro is like a 40 megapixel camera, but it only exports in auto mode in 12 megapixel, and I shot all these photos on auto mode on all the cameras, so you're compressing a lot of those pixels to get rich detail, and it does a pretty good job. They all have a lot of detail. When I moved into a shot of shooting into a building, so the building had lower lighting conditions, it did a pretty good job because this was actually a hard task of exposing the windows in the back of this room, but then also exposing the room, which was really dark, and they all did really well with it. So actually none of the windows are blown out on the right side in any of the photos, and in terms of like texture and sharpness, they all look pretty sharp. So I actually don't have anything to say about that. The Pixel 3a, the gray looks a little bit of like a bluish gray, per usual. The front-facing camera is an interesting test because I had a lot of harsh light on me. The Pixel 3a and the 7 Pro both have a wider angle lens than the iPhone XS, so you get more in. So if you're taking like a group selfie, it's gonna look a little bit better. And I feel like my skin tone looks really good in the Pixel 3a. It kind of gets like a creamy, like light look to it. So that would be my preference, but the selfies actually look pretty good on both of the cameras. I'm like squinting in them because it was so bright out and I was staring right into the sun, but I think it did a pretty good job. And when we moved to another photo of me, but this time without portrait mode on, just to see how it will overall perform, getting the sky exposed and just getting overall detail in the photo while still prioritizing the subject. It's interesting. So iPhone XS made my shirt like way too saturated. And my pants also look a little saturated as well, but the sky looks really nice in the photo. The OnePlus 7 Pro overexposed the sky like just a little bit, so it's a little bit lighter blue than it actually was on the day. And the Pixel 3a added a lot of contrast, which I think actually makes this photo pop a lot. Dynamic range looks pretty good in all of them. I think the OnePlus 7 Pro is the worst image here, but that's just a preference thing. I feel like it did blow out a little bit, like the highlights on my shirt, though, it overexposed them, where the other ones were able to retain that detail. Another indoor shot in a drugstore of gift cards shows kind of like the field of view of the cameras. The OnePlus 7 Pro has 3 cameras. The iPhone XS has 2. So the main photos I'm shooting are on the standard camera, and this one was as well, and they all have a similar field of view. These actually all look pretty good. I think my favorite image here might be the iPhone XS, but it's like a close call. They look very similar. So speaking of that second and third lens, the OnePlus 7 Pro has a wide angle lens, which is great. And it also has a telephoto lens, which is 3 times zoom. The iPhone XS also has a telephoto lens. So I took a picture of a tree to just like kind of show the detail. And the iPhone XS lens is 2 times zoom. And then the Pixel 3a only has just that one camera, so it's gonna have to use digital zoom when it wants to zoom in, and it has some smart techniques in order to get a higher quality zoom. But when I first just took it just with the regular camera and the 3a and then the other 2 cameras, you can see that there is a huge versatility to having that second lens. It adds a lot of detail, and the photos look extremely detailed here, and you get a lot of texture in the tree. And then I went ahead and I digitally zoomed to 2 times on the 3a, and you can see it's a little wider than the 7 Pro, but it looks about the same as the iPhone XS. And then I went to 3 times, and it definitely almost looks as good. Like, they do a really good job of sharpening the image, but I think there's something to having it actually be in the camera and in the lens versus digitally zooming, but it's definitely not terrible. It actually looks like a pretty sharp image considering. The versatility of the 7 Pro shows up again with that wide angle camera, and while the images aren't the sharpest, and the camera is definitely noticeably different than the standard camera, it adds some nice things. So you can see in this walkway, when I have the wide camera on, it just adds a different field of view. And there is a little distortion at the corners, but there is a setting to turn on that will help avoid that distortion. And I think that even though this is a noticeably softer image, it's nice that you have that option, especially for landscape photography. It adds a really nice benefit. In terms of shooting photos in lower light, both the Pixel 3a and the OnePlus 7 Pro have like a night sight mode. The Pixel 3a calls it night sight and the OnePlus 7 Pro calls it nightscape. Regardless, it's similar though, so I went into my room and I shut off all the lights and I only had a little light coming in from the windows. And you can see the iPhone XS, it did terribly. Like the subject is out of focus and it looks really bad. It had to crank up the ISO to get a good image. The Pixel 3a is so good that it literally looks like it's daytime in my room and it retains a lot of detail in the box. The OnePlus 7 Pro also makes it look like it's daytime in my room, but the actual picture of the box is a lot more out of focus than it is on the 3a. So in terms of low light photography, I think that the 3a has the most reliable nighttime photography. I used the mode again, but it wasn't really that dark out yet. The sun was just kind of setting, so we were at like this dusk kind of mood, so you didn't really need it, but I just wanted to see if it would do anything. So you can see that the iPhone XS actually did pretty fine. So they all made the sky look brighter than it actually was. So it was kind of, this was around like 8 p.m. I would say, so the sun was just like starting to set. And they all look really good here. They retain a lot of detail in the building, which is really nice to see. And all these photos actually like would be really postable. They look good. Rounding out this comparison with some video tests, because that's very important. Notoriously, the iPhone XS has like the most consistent best video, and I feel like that still kind of holds true with the overall image. But both of these phones do a pretty good job. Stabilization on all of them is also pretty good. So I'm looking at this video right now of a fountain. And the OnePlus 7 Pro gives a very bluish tone to the water actually. And that's actually really accurate. That's what the water looked like. But it also really saturates the image. If you look at the building in the back, that is not as red as it actually was. And the OnePlus 7 Pro and OnePlus devices always do this. Like they make it way too saturated. The 3A and iPhone XS look a lot more accurate. The iPhone XS doesn't as much have like that phone look. It looks a little bit better overall, and I feel like it's a better video camera overall. When we went over to a video of myself to kind of see how stabilization would be overall, the same story kind of holds true. Even though they all have pretty good stabilization, the Pixel 3a and the iPhone XS have a much more natural color tone. The OnePlus 7 Pro, so saturated. I don't know why they always do this. Like, it's a little crazy, but if you look at my shirt here, it doesn't even look like real. Like, I don't even understand. When you're taking the videos, both the Pixel 3a and the OnePlus 7 Pro don't look like the most stable, but then it processes and it looks pretty stable. But I just honestly feel like the OnePlus 7 Pro footage is unusable. My legs like actually look red. I would either go with the Pixel 3a or the iPhone XS in terms of video. That's really it though. Something to really keep in mind here is that the Pixel 3a is $399 and the OnePlus 7 Pro starts at $669. That's a lot less than the iPhone XS, and they both do better in a lot of cases or do the same. I think the iPhone XS is the best video smartphone camera on the market. Pixel 3a and Pixel 3 are supposed to have the best cameras in the market, and while they definitely are up there, there were certain photos where I actually genuinely preferred the OnePlus 7 Pro. I'm happy to say that. The OnePlus 7 Pro has kind of a weak wide-angle camera, but I like that it's there. And it also does pretty horrendously in video. Stabilization is fine, but colors, like the color science in video, it's really not that good. I'm hoping to see like an update where they, literally all they have to do is just take down the saturation and take out a little bit of the red, and it would be good. So I'm hoping that they do that. I wanna know what you thought, like what your favorite camera was in the comments down below. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe right here so you don't miss anything else. Check out another video right here. I have a lot of other content coming, so be sure to stay tuned. All right, see you guys later. Bye.